Silent Hill F certainly has a lot of hype behind it, especially after the unexpected success of the Silent Hill 2 remake. However, recent hands-on previews have split the fandom down the middle like Pyramid Head's great knife through James Sunderland's guilty little gullet. But why the controversy, Ian Higton from Eurogamer, you may be wondering? Well, it's all to do with the game's combat, which seems to have taken a healthy dose of inspiration from a certain series about souls. That's right, Silent Hill F's combat has been described as Soulslike with a pure focus on melee weapons such as pipes, bats, sickles, knives, and this here Naginata polearm. This means that there are no guns in Silent Hill F at all, which, as far as I'm aware, is a first for the series, if you don't count some of the spin-offs like PT, obviously. This is something that probably makes sense due to the fact that Japan, the setting for the game, doesn't have a massive boner for guns like America does, but this lack of available firearms does mean that Konami has had to rework the way in which our plucky protagonist Hinako handles the game's hideous enemies, and this is where the majority of fan concerns lie. But what exactly are these concerns, and are they actually valid, or is this just another case of the over-the-top pre-release skepticism that blighted Bloober Team's Silent Hill 2 remake before its release? And if so, could the skeptics once again be proven wrong when Silent Hill F releases in September? There's only one way to find out. Let's do an investigating. Yeah. Starting with the big question first, is Silent Hill F actually a Souls-like? Or at the very least, does it have Souls-like style combat? Well, according to various previews and the footage that's on screen right now, yes, the combat definitely does lean towards that style of gameplay, while the rest of F is still rooted in survival horror. Played on PlayStation, R1 and R2 activate weak and strong attacks respectively, just like in Dark Souls, while Circle, the button assigned to Dark Souls' famous roll, is used to dodge attacks in F. What makes this even more similar to a Souls-like is the fact that each time you evade an attack with the dodge, you'll burn part of your stamina meter, with 3 dodges in a row seemingly being enough to completely empty it, something which newcomers to Souls-like style energy management will probably find pretty tricky to get to grips with. Considering attacking also uses up stamina, it's not going to be long before Hinako is out of breath and unable to swing her weapons. Thankfully, there are ways to prevent this, including finding charms to equip that will reduce stamina usage. But the fastest and best way to regain your gusto in a fight is by executing a perfect dodge at the last second. This replenishes the stamina meter, and if you also perform a counter-attack on an enemy when they start glowing, 1, you won't use up any stamina, and 2, you will stagger said foe. This will then give you a brief moment to either attack more or catch your breath and regain a bit of stamina. This counter-attack sounds fairly similar to Sekiro's counter mechanics, which require fast reflexes and very good timing. But if, like me, you have neither of those, there is a handy focus mode that can be triggered by a press of the left shoulder button. When activated, focus mode will extend the window for counter-attacking enemies and, in turn, allow you to charge up a focus attack for massive damage. That sounds great, but doing this also drains Hinako's sanity meter, and if that runs out, she'll become so frightened and tired that she won't be able to move. Success in combat then is going to be a bit of a balancing act, but even with the help of focus mode, there's still talk of the game being too hard. According to reports, some reviewers spent an hour or more on an infuriatingly tough boss that required players to constantly dodge. This made it incredibly hard for them to attack due to depleted stamina, which sounds like it's one of those Souls-like style gatekeeper bosses that will force you to master the aforementioned perfect dodge mechanic before you can move on. On the flip side, standard enemies don't drop XP or resources when killed, which means there's no real benefit to fighting them, other than the fun of smashing their stupid heads in, of course. This means many monster encounters could be avoided by simply running away, potentially making survival in other parts of the game much more manageable. And even if Silent Hill F is actually bastard hard at the moment, it might not be that way upon launch. Looking at IGN's preview of Silent Hill F, for example, its author states that, while Konami had advised them to play on story mode settings for both puzzles and combat, the previewer ignored them and chose normal mode instead, which of course caused the combat to be more demanding. While chances are high that this story mode choice was pushed by Konami in a bid to get the previewers to see as much of the game as possible, it could also be a sign that the publisher knows that the combat is a bit too tricky at the moment, and therefore it could be planning to tone down the difficulty a bit by launch. And to be fair, if it didn't already have that plan in action, these previews and the resulting fan feedback might be enough to convince Konami to nerf the stamina penalties slightly. Either way, it's safe to say that, while Silent Hill F isn't a Soulsborne in most aspects, its combat has absolutely been inspired by the genre, and this is something that series fans are going to have to come to terms with if they want to give this new iteration a chance upon release. But that's not the only worry that Silent Hill enjoyers have been spaffing into comments and social posts since the most recent round of previews. As I've already mentioned, when it comes to gun sounds, Silent Hill F will remain silent, because it's all melee all the time. Technically, that wouldn't be so much of a bad thing, but that's before you take into account F's weapon degradation, which means that most weapons, aside from Otherworld exclusives like the dagger and Naginata polearm, will break after a few good whacks. As a counter to this, you can repair weapons with toolkits, although these are said to be fairly rare. Thankfully, a lot of weapons can be found simply lying around the environment, and Hinako can equip up to 3 at a time. This means that smart players will always have a backup to hand, in case the one they're using gets balked. And balked they will be, because weapon types in F each have different levels of durability, so some will last a lot longer than others. It's worth bearing in mind that weapons can also be used to block blows, with heavier ones like the sledgehammer being capable of repelling much stronger attacks. However, any kind of blocking will accelerate the degradation of said weapon, which creates yet another balancing act for the player. Is it really worth wearing down a good weapon against a strong enemy because it'll block more damage, or should you save that weapon and use it to quickly dispatch smaller foes outside of boss fights? These combat choices will form the majority of the fun in Silent Hill F, but unlike the Souls-esque combat, weapon degradation isn't actually a feature that's new to the series. Wobbly weapons also featured in games like Silent Hill 4 The Room, Silent Hill Oranges, and the spin-off Silent Hill Book of Memories, which even included toolkits to restore weapon durability, just like they do in F.
Those things that I can tap and repair tools, whatever.
So yeah, weapons-wise, not having guns and ammo to worry about will definitely be a bit of a change for series fans, but in terms of weapon durability and repairs, these features have been used before, so while they may not be popular with everyone, they are at least paying homage to previous games in the series, rather than pushing things in a radical new direction like the combat is. There are a few other minor changes to the established gameplay of the Silent Hill series in F though, like the fact that there are no static producing radios to warn you of approaching enemies. But as I'm sure loads of you are already typing into the comment section, not every radio in the series had that functionality anyway, so from what I gather, no one really seems to be bothered by this news. Visually and narratively too, I think most Hillheads are in agreement that the new locations and character designs and story put the F in pretty effing awesome, so there's nothing to worry about there either. With all of this in mind then, is the controversy surrounding Silent Hill F's combat warranted, or will everything be forgiven upon release? I guess we won't know for sure until the reviews come in, but I can absolutely see Souls-like haters bouncing off the punishing boss battles due to their reliance on meter management and the player having to have fast reflexes over their ability to hoard ammo and aim with a steady hand, which was the key to success in previous titles. Perhaps the rest of the game will be good enough to keep those doubters pushing on through though. It's a tricky one to predict, but I for one am looking forward to finding out. But what about you? Are you excited for Silent Hill F, or has its focus on Souls-like combat turned you off completely? Let us know in the comments below, like this video if you enjoyed it, and why not check out this other Silent Hill video that's on screen and clickable right now. It's got me doing some VR in it. Remember when I did VR stuff? Good times. Those were. I used to like doing those videos, so yeah, some of that in there. No Dark Souls combat though. Promise. Bye!